Hello, hello. Welcome to Progress Kentucky's Kernels of Truth, bringing you a big bag of truth tonight about a lot of important Kentucky political stories, some national political stories that have significant ramifications for folks here in Kentucky. And then we are very, very excited to have with us tonight Martina Jackson, who is a Democratic candidate for the 81st District, Madison County House District. We'll then close out with our call to action and events calendar. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? And why do I say Kentucky purple? I say purple because I am a realist. We call this show Kernels of Truth. I am not going to make promises that we cannot keep. We are not going to be a blue state tomorrow. We are, I'm just going to admit it, we are a red state, and we are going to need to put in some work to get us to purple. And then, of course, with the goal ultimately being on the blue. But hey, I'm not a spring chicken. So I don't really know if we're going to get there immediately. It might take us a little while, right? So we need your help to make it happen, though. We need to hold our lawmakers accountable. We're gonna need to band together to beat back the red wave of bad politics and policy that the GOP supermajority constantly confronts us with from Frankfurt. Efforts to stop teaching history that make white parents uncomfortable, blocking our governor from paying frontline workers a bonus. We need help to stand effectively against the GOP super duper majority, and I think you should help us. I think you should. You're here on the live stream. Why not help out? Just like this live stream right now. That's one thing you could do wherever you're watching this. Give us a thumbs up, maybe even a love icon, a heart icon, maybe a care icon if you think, we just need some help. We need a big hug to turn Kentucky purple. Whatever you can do, just show some support. And that will help, juice the algorithm. We're on Facebook. I'll admit it. I feel torn about it. I know it's not a, corporate. It's not a good corporation, but it has somehow become the town square. That's where we are. And so this is where the eyeballs are. We're going to keep using it until we find a viable alternative. But while we're here, help us use the sharing capacity of Facebook. Help us juice that algorithm. Make sure your friends know that you're standing with Progress Kentucky, that you also are a kernel of truth. So that's what's going on tonight. I'm excited about this show, but of course we are not some internet talking head show. We're a digital demonstration. We are working to make progress in Kentucky, and that's going to take some direct action, some protest, make some noise. What's your sign say tonight? You can put it in the chat if you've got a catchy one. But we're going to check in with our co-host for the evening. My name, though, of course, Aaron Viles. I am coming to you from Chilesburg, a traffic snarled subdivision, seemingly a million miles from Lexington. At least that's what it felt like when I was coming back to that subdivision just this evening. My protest sign says today, Secretary Mayor Pete, please fix the Brent Spence Bridge. That's me. What's yours say? I want to see one in the chat. Come on, let's put one in the chat. We got a few folks watching. What's it say? But while you're coming up with yours there, internet viewer, let's ask Doug Price, our co-host.
Sure. Doug Price from Harrison County, Kentucky. The county seat of Harrison County is Cynthiana. And the county seat got its name from Mr. Harrison, who the county wasn't named after. That was another dude. But he had two daughters. One was Cynthia and the other one was Anna. So the town became known as Cynthiana. My protest sign says, hope you can read this, vote for infrastructure bill, not Barr, not Comer, not Guthrie, not Massey, not Rogers. Who loves you, baby? Not these guys.
I love it. I love it. Even if I don't love your internet connection, you're looking a little bit pixelated there, sir. I hope that's just the internet connection. So Cynthia and Anna, that's lovely. Thank you. Every time I throw it to you, Doug, I learn something new. Not about things I was expecting to learn about either. It's not on the run of show. That's not what we were going to cover. But Doug wins because he actually brought a sign, I guess. I don't know. People didn't like the Secretary Mayor Pete one. Sandy Downs has one. Oh, nope, he doesn't have a sign. He's just weighing in that what we need to fix Facebook. He concurs. We need to fix Facebook. So I'm with you, Sandy. We're working on it. It's not a priority campaign. I'll be honest. We're focused on Kentucky politics primarily, but we'll definitely amplify some calls to action on that one. All right, so let's jump into the news of the week, which, it's actually good news for a while until we get to Doug's response to it. The big news is that we've got roads, we got bridges, we got broadband, and we got EV charging stations coming to Kentucky by the truckload. This is a big effing deal, people, after months of wrangling. We'll just say years of wrangling, because I don't know if you recall, but there was a president prior to Joe Biden who really wanted to do infrastructure because he knew infrastructure. He's a builder. He wasn't really a builder. He just put his name on stuff, but stuff that then went bankrupt. But he couldn't get it done. You know who got it done? Joe Biden got it done. A $1.2 trillion investment in our nation's roads or bridges, broadband, and as I mentioned, electric vehicle charging stations. Yes, I'm biased, but I think that one's awesome. Lots of important support for our nation's economic future. You can see right there. We stole this graphic from CNN. And it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of money on important things. $110 billion for roads and bridges. Hence my Brent Spence bridge comment. We have got very important for us. $55 billion for improved water quality, things like lead pipes, things like safe, clean drinking water, infrastructure, passenger and rail. $65 billion for broadband, $39 billion for public transit. Really important stuff that is coming our way, and it was a big fight, but we got it through. It's one step in a two-step process to really invest in our people as well. This is kind of the more hard infrastructure investment. Next up is the Build Back Better bill. And that should be coming soon. That's kind of the promise. We shall see what happens. But let's talk about what it means for Kentucky. What does it mean for Kentucky? I'm glad you asked. From the White House, we learned that in Kentucky, there are 1,033 bridges and over 1,300 miles of highway in poor condition. Since 2011, commute times have increased by 6.3% in Kentucky. On average, each driver pays $440 a year in broken vehicle costs because of crappy roads. This is the single largest dedicated bridge investment since the construction of the interstate highway system. People, that's been a while. Kentucky's going to receive $4.6 billion for federal highway apportioned programs, $438 million for bridge replacement and repairs. But Kentucky can also compete for the $12.5 billion bridge investment program for economically significant bridges. Hello, Brent Spence. Nearly $16 billion in national funding is dedicated to major projects that will deliver substantial economic benefits to communities. So there's pots of money that we can kind of compete for to help fix our infrastructure. And I think we've got arguably some very important infrastructure to be fixed. We also are going to see improvement to our healthy, sustainable transportation options. So Kentuckians who take public transportation spend an extra 60% of their time commuting. Non-white households are 6 times more likely to commute via public transportation. 15% of transit vehicles in our state are past their useful life. They need to be replaced. Kentucky is going to get about $390 million over the 5-year life of this bill to improve public transportation for our state. That's awesome. And one, like I said before, I'm a little bit biased, but building a network of EV chargers for long distance travel and to provide convenient charging options. So, if you own an EV, which, not a lot of people in Kentucky do, we're not an early adopter state on that front. But remember, we got that amazing announcement with Ford and SK Innovations that we are going to have, thousands of jobs from the Ford battery plants that are coming to Elizabethtown. So really exciting time for Kentucky. But where are those batteries going to go? If we don't start building charging infrastructure here in Kentucky, we don't start adopting some of those vehicles, we're just going to ship them out of state. What's the point of that? So this EV charging network is about $7.5 billion but we'll get about 69 million for that. The thing about a charging network, it's important to have for long distance trips, but when you own an EV, and I don't want to turn into an EV ad here, but if you own an EV, 90% of all of your charging is going to be done at home. You're going to plug it in your garage, or from the window of your apartment or something like that. And that means that you don't have to go to the gas station very often, but when you do need to, you need to, right? If you're driving over 250 miles or 200 miles or whatever the range is for most of these vehicles, and it's getting longer every day. So really important that we have that option and that we have a network so we're reliably able to get to those long distances. But let's get on it. Let's make sure Ford's batteries don't, just get built here, they get used here as well. All right. So another one that's really important for our state is help connect every American to reliable, high-speed internet. 5% of Kentuckians live in areas where we have no broadband infrastructure at all. This is obviously something we talked about for a while in our state, and we have not kind of sealed the deal. But even if you've got access to it, it might be too expensive to use. So 70% of Kentucky households don't have an internet subscription, so they don't get it themselves in their home. Folks who need it, they might go get the Wi-Fi from the McDonald's up the street, park in the parking lot and use that. So kind of some of the free options, maybe go to the library. But everyone needs to have it in their home. And these pandemic days, for sure, I think we all learned that. And it's really important that we get the investment to make it happen. We'll get at least $100 million to help provide that broadband coverage across our state, providing access to the 227,000 Kentuckians who currently lack it. Under this project, about 33% of people in Kentucky will be eligible for the affordability connectivity benefit, which is basically making sure that you can afford internet access, which is awesome. The next one is really big. We've had the McCoys on from Martin County, but we are going to see significant investments in clean drinking water. This is actually a picture from Martin County, brown tap water. About 10 million American households, 400,000 schools and childcare centers lack safe drinking water in our nation. Kentucky will get at least $647 million to improve water infrastructure across the state. That's really important, people. We'll be getting, there's some buckets of money again that we could compete for as well for some significant upgrades in our water safety program. So also be getting money for airport improvements, resiliency funds to defend against climate impacts like floods and fires, money to defend against cyber attacks. Woo, that is a lot of resources that are kind of being queued up right now. Amazing. Trump, as I said, could not get this done. But 10 months into Biden's administration, we've got a generational investment in our roads, our bridges, our broadband, safe water systems, and more. Our own Budget Committee Chairman, Representative John Yarmouth, worked hard on this package and deserves a lot of credit for getting this across the finish line. But I'll be honest, this hurts. I don't like to say it, but I'm going to give some begrudging credit to Mitch McConnell himself, Moscow Mitch. He's called the package a godsend for Kentucky, and we agree with that assessment. He's the one who decided to let Republican senators vote for the bill if they wanted to. He didn't withhold the votes and maintain a filibuster on this effort. So that was, it was bipartisan. They proved that there is, in certain rare instances, it is possible to have some bipartisanship. I don't swear at me, Annabelle. I didn't make this. This is just truth. This is the fact. We're kernels of truth. We have to acknowledge where things have happened and how they have happened. So, this little bit of credit for Mitch McConnell doing the right thing for our nation this one time, which of course he wants to do the right thing on something like this. He gets to hand out a lot of checks. He gets to go to a lot of ribbon cuttings. But he's the only Republican in Kentucky that really should be allowed to any of those events, for sure. And man, did that piss off Trump. So he just yesterday issued a statement that said, it really was some statement. Here's the quote. "Why is it that old crow Mitch McConnell voted for a terrible Democrat socialist infrastructure plan and induced others in his party to do likewise when he was incapable of getting a great infrastructure plan wanting to be put forward by me?" That was a written statement by our former president. If you could, make heads or tails of it, he's pissed that Mitch didn't get Trump's infrastructure plan done. I think that's likely because there was never ever really an infrastructure plan. It was just an idea for infrastructure investments, and the guy couldn't figure out a way to do it because he couldn't legislate or lead his way out of a wet paper bag. All right, so that is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and what it's bringing to Kentucky, which I'm pretty excited about. Doug, we talked about who voted for it. So John Yarmouth did yeoman's work to get that bill across the finish line. Mitch McConnell begrudgingly, we got to acknowledge he did in fact vote for it. Who voted against it, Doug?
Well, you've detailed how the infrastructure bill is going to help Kentuckians. Let me take a different spin on the matter. You know me, I'm the guy who tracks things down, and rest assured, when it happens, I will document it. When what happens? When Andy Barr, Jamie Comer, Brett Guthrie, Thomas Massey, and Hal Rogers, who all voted against the infrastructure bill, are present at check presentations from this bill, I will make sure to report the fact that none of them voted for it. Here are their thoughts on the bill. Andy Barr was quoted as saying, who voted against the infrastructure bill, called it a big government socialist agenda. Jamie Comer, I voted no on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that passed Congress in the dark of night. Less than 10% of this bill contained surface infrastructure, like roads and bridges, with significant money going toward things that do not affect Kentucky's first district, like mass transit and green energy. So Jamie doesn't want any mass transit or green energy in his district. I guess that means all the people there don't want that either. From Brett Guthrie, there's a lot of Green New Deal things like electric charging stations and electric buses and things like that. I think when Americans want infrastructure, they think roads, bridges, highways, locks and dams, those type of things. And as Aaron has already said, some of that stuff is included in this bill. Thomas Massey. I didn't find much from Massey. He's too busy touting the fact that he has a Master of Science from MIT, and the COVID vaccine is not all it's made out to be. Oh, and did you know he has had COVID-19 and has paid fines for carrying guns into the House chambers and wants to allow those in the military to defy orders to take the vaccine? If he has no comment, because there may be funds in the bill for the Brent Spence Bridge in northern Kentucky. And if that's the case, he's pandering to his base by not saying anything while voting against the bill. Hal Rogers. We desperately need improvements to our infrastructure, especially in rural Kentucky. But the truth is that less than half of the new spending bill goes toward real infrastructure projects. And this puts our country on a fast track toward socialism. There is a better way to serve American people. We not only need to repair our nation's infrastructure, we need to repair the deficit of trust that continues to grow with socialist schemes like this. You have to give these guys credit. They must get together to discuss talking points and then take these to the public. I want to follow up with a brief mention on the American Rescue Act of 2021. All of the above voted against this act too. Barr said the bill would provide funds for abortion. Comer said the bill provides money for foreign aid. I couldn't find a comment from Guthrie or Massey. And of course, Rogers called this a liberal spending spree. I looked up from KentuckyPolicy.org that noted the ARP includes $360 billion for state, local, and tribal governments, with approximately $4.2 billion expected to go to Kentucky. Remember, these guys voted against $4.2 billion for Kentucky. That money for budgets is needed. There's a decline in public revenue, which has resulted in the loss of 27,300 state and local government jobs since the pandemic hit. An estimated $2.4 billion is expected to go to Kentucky state government, making a major difference in our state budget. Kentucky counties will receive an estimated $866 million, with all counties receiving funds. My Harrison County will receive approximately $3.6 million. All of them were against this bill that would provide much needed funds for your city, your county, your commonwealth, and your country. Back to you, Aaron.
Thanks so much, Doug. Thanks for detailing that and running that down. I think really critical we keep our eyes on these politicians and make sure that whenever they kind of pop their head out to take credit for some federal program that they voted against, we are there to, to set the record straight, be a kernel of truth, to tell the truth about their voting records. They don't get to claim credit if they voted against it. So we're going to move into now. We don't have, I'm going to acknowledge it right here, Kimberly Cecil Jones is not with us tonight, and she might be joining us later. We shall see. But what we're going to do is her segment, her news in 2, maybe 3, maybe 5 minutes or less. We got a few stories that we did want to kind of make sure everyone noticed and drew attention to. Get Doug's quick responses on this. So first one, really important story, really tragic story. Kentucky has now passed 10,000 COVID deaths. It's the third leading cause of death in the state over that period, which is really problematic. Obviously, also I saw that 11-year-old died of COVID yesterday. This is we are in a spot right now in Kentucky that we do not want to be. Right, so we have been in a nice trajectory. Our case positivity or test positivity rates were going down and down and down. Now they've kind of bottomed out and maybe are kind of heading towards larger numbers, a little higher rates. We're not as many of our counties are in the red, but we're not we're still not in the green. A lot of yellow, a lot of orange in our maps right now. We cannot let up. Right now I'm thrilled. My youngest now has an appointment to get vaccinated. The fact that an 11-year-old died of COVID, we got to get our kids vaccinated. We got to get ourselves vaccinated. We got to get our recalcitrant father-in-laws vaccinated. Everyone's got to go out there and do it because that's the only way we get out of this thing. And if you haven't gotten your booster and you're able to go get your booster. Because it's certainly something that is really important for us. I don't know if Doug's timing me. I should probably keep this moving, but that is a really important story. And 10,000 deaths is nothing to joke about. We're at 725,000 deaths for the nation right now. It is just absolutely tragic. Moving on to a far less tragic story, the Washington Post reminds the nation right now. There's a deep dive story that they've done that Trump is taking on Mitch. It could not happen to a more deserving SOB. This is definitely one of my favorite stories for quite a while. The fact that Trump is just laying in to Mitch time and time again, and Mitch is just sucking it up. He gets that he kind of has to do it if he's going to have any sort of political ability to operate in his nut job Republican Party that he is ostensibly the winner of. If you click that link right in there, that even if you've used up all your Washington Posts, that's a gift link from Progress Kentucky to you, so you can read that deep dive because everyone needs to read it because Mitch McConnell deserves this abuse. It's Trump agreeing with Trump. Well, that's not something so far today on the show I've given some credit to Mitch, and now I'm saying that Trump is right about something as well. It's all related. It's all how horrible they are. All right, so one other important story. I saw that Governor Beshear is budgeting for Kentucky state troopers to get body cameras. This is really important. There's some stories that have shown that actually Kentucky state troopers in rural areas are absolutely lethal, and there's a lot of unexplained and unfortunate shootings. They call them officer-involved shootings, which where cops shoot people. So this is not something that we want to see continue. Obviously, and I think having body cameras is really important, and car cameras is really important. And every agency that has individuals with guns, I think, should have those because that footage is so critical. He's also budgeting a very generous pay raise, so it's I think it's the smart approach to the Kentucky State Police. So at any rate, that's happening right now, and I don't know how long that took. But what I do want to bring in is my friend Doug Price to give me some feedback on that story. I'm trying to unmute you, Mike. There you go, Doug.
Okay, of course I wouldn't time it. I mean, why would I do that? That would be kind of like in your face a little bit. And for those people who are not watching this and actually are listening to it, I was holding a phone with the timer to see whether or not he was going to do it within the prescribed time frame.
Yeah, no, it was
Uh,
not. It
my
was not under 3 minutes. I'll admit that right now.
but it was far under 5 minutes, which is where someone else has been in the past. My quick takes: if our governor had not implemented policies to stop the spread, the death toll would have been much worse. 10,000 is horrible. And you think about an 11-year-old who died, and you think, who would that 11-year-old have been? You don't know. And I just know that if it had been my child or my grandchild, I just really feel sorry for the family. Trump versus McConnell. In my opinion, there is no winner because they are both losers. And Mitch doesn't really care about Trump. This term is his last hurrah, and it's his hope that the Senate will once again be his domain. Meanwhile, his wife is getting paid to be on the Kroger board of directors. And lastly, I vote aye on body cameras and a raise for Kentucky State Troopers. Back to you, Aaron.
All right. Yeah, Elaine Chao on the board of Kroger's. I think we retweeted something this week that was her talking about how important it was that, workers came back, a patriotic duty of workers to come back because, we've got this great, great resignation happening across the country where workers are basically, you know what, I'm not going to go work for crappy wages in a dangerous situation in the midst of a pandemic. And grocery stores are absolutely in that category, right? They can, they're confronted with people who won't wear masks. Mask mandates are, few and far between right now, certainly in Kentucky. But people still need to get their groceries, and the fact that Elaine Chao, from her vantage point of a overpaid board member, is encouraging folks to sacrifice for their country so you can get your it's Kroger's duty to staff their stores. The best way to staff your store, your restaurant, your factory is to pay people what they're worth. They will show up. They will show up happily if you actually compensate them for their time. But in a state like Kentucky with an abysmally low minimum wage, we've got the federal minimum wage has not been raised for decades. We absolutely could have done that earlier, but Kristen Sinema and her very opportunistic look at me thumbs down against the minimum wage increase. So really, and of course, anything we want to do right now that's at all progressive is running into that filibuster. So that's really important that we, put the pressure on to get rid of that filibuster and get ourselves moving in the right direction. So anyway, Elaine Chao, really, we're not asking anyone to, sacrifice for their commerce. Like, that's not really what we're going to be doing right now. It's supporting her call for people to jump in there for Kroger. Save Kroger, people. Anyway, we're going to be talking very shortly to Martina Jackson, the Democratic candidate for the 81st district. But first, before we do that, we're going to ask you one more time to consider supporting Progress Kentucky. You can do it very easily. You can make a donation. We've got a secure ActBlue website. It doesn't have to be a big donation, but anything you can pitch in to help us. We've got some organizing projects that are going to cost us some money. We're going to do a big mail out to 1,500 active voters in Kentucky to encourage them to get more active, right? So it's not just about voting. It's also about holding your representatives accountable and that kind of key advocacy. We've got a great plan for it. We're excited to implement that plan, but we do need a little bit of resources to make it happen. So if you can make a donation, the goal is to raise $1,500. We have not come terribly close. So please make a donation if you can. 5, 10, 20, 2,500, whatever you can do. We appreciate it. But if you want to help turn Kentucky purple, this is the process, right? No off years. We are just 362 days away from our chance to retire Rand Paul, and I cannot wait to do that. But we've got a lot of work to do to make it possible. All right. Anyway, we're going to move on now to our fantastic guest, Martina Jackson, who is campaigning for the Democratic nomination for Madison County's 81st district. currently represented by Republican Deanna Frazier, who is an audiologist. Look that up. Won the seat in 2018, edging out Morgan Eves at that race by just 24 votes in 2018, which, just to be clear, 2018 was a pretty good year for Democrats nationwide. But man, it shows that this race, this district, is certainly a possible pickup. So, at any rate, Martina, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
All right. So this is not your first rodeo, right? You have been running for this district for a while now. What's your approach? Why do you think you're the right candidate? And what do you want to do for the 81st district?
Well, again, thank you guys for bringing me on. And just excited to be here. Well, yes, I ran in 2020 initially for the Democratic ticket for the primary and fell short, just under 200 votes for that. And decided that, we the Dems didn't take the seat in the November election. And I felt, it was worth to give it a try again and to run for this seat. And it's tough right now for Democrats, but I don't think it's impossible. And I'm really invested in making sure that we get the leadership that we deserve, and making sure that this district has representation that's going to advocate for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's critically important, right? Folks who are actually going to speak up for the things that people are really going through. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what's your background? What made you think that, I think I can represent this district, and connect to the people who need some help from the Kentucky government.
Right. Well, I can't. I have to start from the beginnings.
Please do. Let's hear it.
Really where public policy where it impacted my life. So I tell this story because growing up, I lived in public housing for my first 18 years of life. And that was, an experience of being at the mercy of government housing and their policies. And I tell the story of when my older brother, he was incarcerated and came home. And during that time, he was incarcerated. He got a felony. And so we were still living in public housing at that time. And as a lot of people may do, they go back home with family, try to get back on their feet. And, that was what the intention was when my brother got out, was to come home. It's not that we didn't want to support him, but because of where we lived, felons cannot live in public housing. And so that was really hard to witness and experience as a younger sibling, where someone who is trying to take the steps to get back on their feet, to re-enter into society. But because of those barriers, I saw them couch surf. I saw them deal with homelessness and just a lot of instability, where someone who was trying to get on their feet was experiencing a lot of barriers within the system that tells you this is how you're supposed to be accountable, but it's actually perpetuating generational poverty. And so by the time I left for college, I was thinking, how can my educational experience help my family? That's really where, my mindset was, because we had experienced a lot of challenges. And that became my, introduction to policy and lived experience of being directly impacted negatively by public policy, and not seeing government as a positive thing. And I wanted to understand, how do we make policies that are fair, that don't perpetuate poverty. And I really stand by the stance that poverty is a policy choice. And I've seen it, I've had family live it, and that, we have to do things that are keeping us from, we need to invest in policies that aren't focused on, making sure people are, you know, punitive, but that are making opportunities for people to get out of, generational poverty. And so that experience, and knowing when I came to the 81st district here to go to school, this place gave me an opportunity, really. And the people in my community now, as we think about the pandemic and our well-being, we have to, really shift into making sure people don't get left behind. And that has really been my focus of why I wanted to run, is to make sure that folks don't get left behind in the recovery for the pandemic. Our economic well-being is really key in recovering from the pandemic.
That's so important for sure. And Martina, really thank you for sharing that story, your kind of firsthand experience with, with some of our governmental services. I think that having that informed perspective about where these services are, while critical, aren't managed necessarily in the way that's most humane, most compassionate, or most, accessible really for people. And, are there specific things you would want to see addressed, kind of if you get to Frankfurt?
Yeah, so the things that I really envision, and really what I'm hearing my neighbors talk about too, in the 81st district, is what is, being able to make sure that for the economic well-being, we have living wages, we have stability in our opportunities for jobs. Also looking at childcare, affordable childcare. That's why I'm really big on looking at investment in early childhood, early learning, and universal preschool. That here would be such a game changer for a lot of people. But also looking at our child abuse and neglect rates. And so Kentucky is rated, we have the #1 rates of child abuse and neglect. And just like any other district, we are seeing that, here, and the need for investment in child welfare and social programs that will help children and families as they're navigating through some of those issues. And so what I'm hearing folks, voters in the 81st district, to talk about, economic well-being, child abuse issues, and also public education.
Yeah, those are all really important. So, I mean, as a Democrat running for this district, which, as you mentioned before, tough, but certainly doable. I think in the right conditions. Would what's your take on the Build Back Better Act? This kind of, we talked a lot this show about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that the Biden administration kind of just got through. Of course, the next thing up, which House Democrats, progressives wanted tied to that first bill, was the Build Back Better Act, which is more the investment in people, right? So we just heard, the things you just rattled off in terms of early child care, in terms of the pre-K coverage, those are things that are in that bill. So would you be somebody who would be supporting that legislation? Be talking about the value of that legislation when you're out there campaigning?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important to point out how significant that is when we talk about people going back to work, and the reasons why a lot of people had to leave work was childcare and it being shut down. I experienced that firsthand, where my access to childcare was gone because things were shut down, and that's a barrier for people getting back to work. And so that's definitely something where, if you have young children, if we're investing in, all day preschool, that becomes not only, an issue around education, but also access economic opportunities that we are, we're creating more barriers for people to get back into the workforce by not putting in those programs in the first place. So I would definitely be a big advocate for that, as it's going to play into our workforce getting back in full swing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, if you can't get your kids cared for, how are you going to work?
Right.
It's a kind of basic fundamentals of our society. And, one party of the two-party system that we're dealing with just doesn't think that's at all important, thinks it's a socialist takeover of our society, that we want to help people make sure they've got kind of safe and reliable and affordable childcare, which, it's just outrageous to me that they're, 50% of our political parties think that that's socialism, that you want to like help make sure people can take care of their kids.
Right.
All right. So, Martina, really great to hear your kind of the vision of kind of what you want to do. I will just say for the record, I think maybe you're crazy that you want to, get that front row seat to that circus that's going on back there in Frankfurt. That's super duper majority. But, if you get in there, maybe other folks are getting in there. Maybe it's not a super duper majority anymore. Maybe we can start to, make sure that democratic ideas of, actually caring for people in our Commonwealth are front and center. And it's not just, one more bill to ban abortion or to take more power away from the governor, which seems to be kind of, or, give tax dollars to corporations for no clear outcomes. But yeah, Doug, I think you've got a question for Martina, so I wanted to bring you in here. And you might be muted because I didn't want to hear your drinking your beverage earlier.
Sorry.
It's fine.
I get muted all the time, so that's okay. I want to say I admire you very much for being willing to step out and do this. A couple of questions to ask you, and then I'll just listen. Do you expect to have an opponent in the primary? And then give us a sense of what is it like? What is an example of a day when you're running for an election?
Right. Those are great questions. Thank you, Doug. I honestly, I don't know. I've kept my ear on the ground to see if anyone else is going to run. But I definitely have put in the work. Even from losing my initial primary, I've put in the work to let people know that I care about this community, whether I have a title or I'm elected or not. So, I hope, my community, my district has seen that. And hopefully I won't have a primary, but, those happen. But for me to run, I work a 8-to-5 job and full-time parent as well. And so it is running a campaign is another full-time job, not going to lie. So it is, it can be exhausting and it's a lot of hard work and getting people, to back you and volunteer and coordinating. It takes a lot of energy, but I am incredibly dedicated to, making my district a place where opportunity can exist for anyone. And, when that passion is there, it just becomes just part of your life. And I just continue to see it as another way to contribute to the better, to the public good. And so it's exhausting. I won't lie about that. But it is 8-to-5. Before that, I'm doing social media. I'm call time during the, after work, calling voters, doing events on the weekend. My son, he's 9. He goes with me everywhere. So it's a full-time gig. It is.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for, throwing your hat in the ring. The idea of public service, really important in a state like Kentucky. We need better leaders. I love your kind of just your bio, your commitment, your passion for the district. And I said this to May during the special election. I kind of like the special election. Like, oh look, it's just 7 weeks. It's
No, this
do
is
we
drawn
really
out.
want year-long campaigns? Like, I feel horrible that that's kind of what it takes now. That's the expectation, is you've got to like declare early and you got to be fundraising from day
Right.
one. I think I would hope that voters are able to process the information in a timely fashion and not have to hear from you for a year to make the decision. But I also know that we're so disengaged. But I think a lot of other countries have put some guardrails on campaigns, so you don't go for years, and they just have to go for 2 months or 8 months or whatever, 4 months.
Right.
And I personally support that. So let's get you into Frankfurt, and then I will come lobby you on that idea to put some guardrails in our campaigns and not have to force candidates to spend so much time doing that work.
And make voting like a statewide holiday. How about that?
Absolutely.
I mean, I really, I want to up the civic engagement. I think that's incredibly important. So I'm there with you.
Fantastic. All right. Martina, we've shared in our chat your Facebook page. Encourage everyone to go check you out there. Anything else that you think people, what do you want people to do to be engaged, to help you out, to support the campaign if they like what they've heard tonight?
Yes. So I am definitely, we're building a leadership table of people, and that includes volunteers. So if you want to get involved, that door is wide open for folks in the 81st district, but also across Kentucky. If you want to join in this effort to get the seat for the 81st district, you can also donate to my campaign. Those dollars help make sure that people know they have an option of someone like me who's running for the 81st district seat. And follow me on social media, and I would love to come and talk to your groups or voters, just to talk about how they can get engaged and stay engaged in our political world, because each person who is contributing to making sure that we are, as you said, turning purple, will be a part of making our democracy more representative, especially in Frankfurt.
Awesome. That's a great close. We're excited to watch your campaign. As things get closer, if you do draw a challenger, maybe we'll do a back-to-back thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think right now you got in early, and that's awesome. You can kind of claim the field right now and talk to as many folks as possible. So, good luck on the campaign trail. Your 9-year-old, good luck with them staying engaged and, being willing to be dragged along.
He's my best campaigner.
Fantastic. I also know they're not reliable at that age. But a 7-year-old who's keeps putting her face in here, and she's like, "Dad, when I'm getting to the bath?" I'm like, "Well, after we solve Kentucky's political problems, then you'll get your bath."
That's right.
But yeah, I think
the day. That's right.
But yeah, thanks for taking your evening to spend a little time with us. We absolutely appreciate it, and good luck.
No, thank you so much.
All right. So now we are going to move into our call to action and events calendar. I think, wait, Doug, do you want to do the call to action and events calendar, or do you want to do the close? We got two items left. We got 2 hosts. I think somebody should do one. The other should do the other.
I'll go ahead and do the call to action and events calendar. How about that?
I think that's wonderful.
Okay.
Rock
here
it,
we go.
Doug.
All right. Individual groups across the country have launched #TimeToAct, which is a week of action demanding the Senate move forward to protect voting rights, to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act to limit partisan gerrymandering and defend our democracy. And call Mitch every day this week, and call Rand too, to ask them to vote on that. Also, you can join our board if you want to work with Progress Kentucky to turn our Commonwealth purple with online communications efforts and boots on the ground organizing projects. We would love to consider you for a spot on our board. We're getting organized, and in the implementation of our bylaws, we'll be setting up our official board, and we're looking for smart, committed progressives to help do the work. We've got weekly meetings to join and projects to implement. If you're interested in base building efforts in Kentucky, as well as helping improve and amplify our digital work, we want to talk to you. Send an email to aaronviles@gmail.com. That's AARONVILES@gmail.com, and let him know you're interested. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. Please reach out to any veterans you know and let them know that you appreciate their service to our nation. I think watching Afghanistan return to the Taliban has been incredibly hard for some of our Iraq and Afghanistan era vets, and they deserve our support. It is not their fault that so many were sent into an unwinnable campaign predicated on political agendas, not legitimate intelligence. One other mention, the Wendell Ford dinner is November the 12th. That's this coming Friday in a couple days in Louisville at the Crown Plaza Hotel. You can find more information at www.louisvilledems.com. Again, that's louisvilledems.com. Actually, I will be in Louisville at that time, but not to do that. Got a boys bowling tournament. Aaron, back to you.
That is, by the way, that's the worst advertisement of an event. Hey, it's in Louisville. You should go. I'll be in Louisville. I will not be there, but you should go because I've got kids bowling. What's up, dude? All right. So we got our close. One other point I wanted to make. You mentioned our board and said, hey, send an email to Aaron. If that's intimidating, because I'm intimidating, you can just send a message to, Progress Kentucky on Facebook. You can DM us on Twitter. Take that down. What are you doing? But our board, I just want to clarify, this is not the Kroger board. We are not going to pay you, hundreds of thousands of dollars to, this is an all volunteer effort. You just have to have a passion for turning Kentucky purple, or you can fight with me and say, no, Aaron, we got to turn it blue. And I'll say, no, well, first we got to go purple, right? That's the way it goes. And that'll be fun. We can spend our time hashing out the right political strategies for our state to get in the right direction. So I think you should do it. And you should do it. You right there, viewer. Join the board. Again, no compensation for that role. All right. Next week on Kernels of Truth, we're going to be back with a new show. Kimberly's going to be here. It's going to be a party. We do not know exactly who our guest will be next week, but just mark my words. It's going to be a humdinger. We got some feelers out. We got some conversations happening. I think you're going to like it. And just in case you missed it, we're a nonprofit. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization. We're registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State. We're organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, or CAVE. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. That's a mouthful. Some graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media. Couchfire ignites multi-camera live stream educational and commercial video production content. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. I believe that website is functional. Production this evening was by Annabelle Nagel, our own social media chair and doer of all things political. Annabelle Nagel, a Spotlight Award winner from the Woodford County Democrats. Annabelle Nagel, a deputy political director of a recent special election candidate. Annabelle Nagel, who can do it all. In fact, she even just produced this episode. You've done a great job. Thank you so much. Our regular co-host, Kimberly Cecil Jones, is retooling the Jones Report. It is a weekly live stream. It's going to be great. I don't exactly know when it will relaunch, but mark my words, it'll be on Sunday. And it'll be Betsy Foster. I think Mike Breuer is going to be coming back as a co-host, and of course our own Kimberly Cecil Jones. Find it on Facebook. I wanted to say thank you to Nate for the theme songs. I think Nate is not watching right now because he's practicing bass lines. He is going to be doing a gig with a band in Columbus, Ohio this week. Good luck, Nate, with that gig. I hope it goes well for you. I'm sure your bass lines will be phenomenal. Just really owning the low end on that stage. But if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook, don't worry. You can rewatch the shows. You can see our source links on Facebook and on YouTube. You can, listen to our audio podcast. If you think that Doug and I have faces for radio, I'm not going to argue with you. Listen to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, Pandora, Wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. And if we're not, if you're like, you know what, I only listen to podcasts on this platform, and Kernels of Truth brought to you by Progress Kentucky is not on that platform, let me know. I can probably figure out how to put it up there. And, you know, we want to make your life easier to help make Kentucky purple. That's it. Anyway, I hope you guys had a great time with us. And that you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy the episode, however you watch it, please give us a thumbs up or give us a review or something to just juice the algorithms, because we need more people paying attention to Kentucky politics and working hard to make it better. That's my take on it, and I hope you guys agree. So let's have a great night.